Peace and grand rising to the air. Today is November the 4th, 1440 on the sun calendar, 1441 on the moon calendar, and 2020 on the Greco-Roman calendar. I tell you, the energy is so changed. Very, very changed energy, especially from what it was last week even, but last year, this time last year, and the year before that, the energy is just completely changed, just upgraded, it's uplifted by the actions of the Moors. Before we get into what we're going to discuss today, are there any questions or comments or anything with regard to any demonstrations that you're doing? Any questions or comments with regards to demonstrations? Okay. So, some people have asked me, what does the shift look like? What will this ultimately look like after all that's being done and that we're going to do? You know, when it's all unfolded, what will it look like? And because they kind of want to get a gauge of where we're going. And my response to that is this. A year from now, it's not going to look anything like it looks right now. Just like right now does not look anything like it looked this time last year. Did anyone think this time last year that all of the commerce and everything was going to come to a screeching halt? No one thought that. No one knew it, but the ancestors knew. And so I can go out as far as that to look and see what's going to happen in terms of that. If we knew what ultimately things were going to look like, we wouldn't believe it. We would not believe it. I mean, I know we have actually had dreams about it, all of us, about what it's going to look like. But it seemed like such a strange dream that we did not think that that was something real. But all of us have, at many times throughout our lives, seen what ultimately the unfolding is going to look like, the revealing of the heirs and our sovereign status and all that we are capable and able to do. So, but this time next year, and even sooner than that, and some are already doing it, all commerce will be in the hands of the Moors who are willing to do the work. Because there is work that comes with all that governing our vast estate entails. And there are many who have 9-to-5s that they know in their spirit is they're not comfortable with. But there's a reason for that. And that's not to say go out and make a whole bunch of changes right now. The changes are happening and they're going to happen over time, just like they've been happening over time. There is a shutdown that's happening, that has happened already over on that other side, in terms of what this land, those that used to pretend to control the land is concerned. That shutdown has already happened. We can see that very clear. And that's based on the commands that the Moors have given. And so we've said it in the past, and we'll say it many times coming up, that everything that we remove, we must replace. And that includes all commerce on all levels, from small business commerce to big business commerce. And as far as those corporations that we thought were just massive and huge and all of that, they look like a grain of sand compared to what the Moors will do, have done in the past, and will do. They look like a grain of sand. Moorish commerce makes Microsoft and Apple and all of these other corporations, it makes their commerce look like our commerce in its true form. It makes their commerce look like child's play. Child's play. A grain of sand on our beach. They learned everything that they know from us, and they just mimicked it in the best way that they could, but they're not the heirs. They're not the heirs. We are. We are. So, having said that, you can kind of see over there, many can see it already, where there are businesses that are closing, quote unquote, U.S. corporation company businesses that are closing, and we know that they're not coming back like that. That's in preparation for those of us who are dedicated to the growth of the vast estate. And dedication to the growth of the vast estate looks a lot like what we are feeling now. It looks like, what should I be doing in order to grow whatever it is that the ancestors have put in my heart to do? For some of us that is commerce in one way or another. For others, it's teaching. For others, it's law, and all that we do is law. But for others of us, it's just the freedom to create. And for some of us, it's all of that. For many of us, it's all of that. And all we have to do at this point is keep doing what we're doing and be patient with all that the ancestors are doing through us and for us, through each one of us. And keep our focus on what we're doing, because that over there is the wrap. It's done. And we've said that many times before, and we'll say it. After a while, we won't even have to say it, really, because everyone can see that now it's up to the heirs. Everything that is being done is up to the heirs to do. And we do that with joy, with gladness, because it's our stuff. It's our estate. With gladness, we do it because we know that we don't have anyone breathing down our neck to get us to grow our vast estate. The estate is whatever you have within you that you want to do. And we're moving into that, I think, rather quickly, if you ask me, just from what I've seen. Rather quickly, we're moving into that. And that is why the divine urges that are coming to us are coming. For some, it's wanting to do art, whatever art or craft they do. For others, it's looking around saying, what do I want to do? We actually have that authority to look around and say, what do I want to do? What is it that I want to do? And so but see, those two things cannot exist at the same time. It can't be corporate commerce and sovereign commerce. going on the land at the same time, because our economy is different. It uses different sovereign real things: money, property, assets, the real estate, and it can't be the same as theirs. So you can't have a sovereign gold-backed lawful shop right next door to a Walmart, where Walmart is not, where they're saying, oh, well, you all can't use that currency in here. That can't happen, because everything belongs to us anyway, including Walmart and whatever Walmart is using. All of that is our stuff. And as we continue to stand competently, they're going to continue to, you're not going to see their stuff here. It's our stuff. So when you see businesses closing and things like that, be glad. I know that sounds a little bit on the harsh side. It's not harsh. Be glad, because that means that the reversion of the state has come. And yes, we're going to have to learn to eat off of the land and all of that. But that's commerce too. So in a way, it might look to some like we're going back into the quote-unquote stone ages, but it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. Things are going to modernize so much so where we're concerned, because we have such resourceful, intelligent scientists in our nation. And so we're preparing for that. The ancestors will not allow anything to close down that we need while we're learning to stand. And then as we continue standing, we'll be standing on our own 2 feet, which is what we're doing now, really. That's already being done. So look back over 2020 and see what has happened since we really, really decided that we were going to unify, and everyone was going to start leaning, and everyone was going to start doing court actions, and everyone was going to get active. Look at what has happened over that time period. And everyone is still able to eat. Everyone is still able to move about. Yes, we still have Moors that are freeing themselves. We all are. But nationalization, just because of what's being said and what the Moors hear from us all, those demonstrations that each one of us has done here on this call, other Moors hear about that, and other sleeping Moors hear about it, and they start waking up. What is the result of that? Nationalization. And those who have nationalized, that the quantity has quadrupled exponentially. There are more Moors nationalized today who know who they are than at any time in our lifetime. At any time since we crossed the Stargate, there are more, and that's based on them seeing you and us all do the demonstration. That alone is worth celebrating. There are more Moors now who are nationalized. There are more Moors now who know that the lien process and the court actions are up to each one of us. That's activity. We didn't know what to do when we first woke up. We didn't really know what to do when we first woke up. But now that we're awake and the ancestors have given us the keys that we need, and there will be more keys. There will be more keys. So all of the processes are going to continue to grow and expand, know that our empire does not end. Therefore, the processes that govern it are always going to be stretching out and morphing, and it's almost like tentacles. It is like tentacles. So the processes are never set in stone and complete, because we have to take it step by step, line upon line. There are things that have to be done first before we move to the next level. And we are moving very quickly in that manner. So, liens, that's something that I have never done a lien before in my life until in this crossing into, the Stargate. I have never done one until I woke up. Some people knew how to do that stuff before they woke up because of the citizens attempting to do what we do. But I had never done that until I woke up in 2017. I started to learn that process, and then in 2018, the first one was filed. And for many of you, you had not, we just didn't know that we had that option. And that's actually the law. That's what we're supposed to do lawfully. So, court actions, who knew? Who knew that we had the authority to do that? Some knew, but not as many as know today, based on the demonstrations that each and every one of us is doing. So the demonstrations that we're doing with regard to court actions and things, there are more who had no clue until they saw your court action or until they heard about your lien. And now they're like, well, I think I can do that too. There are more of those being placed on the public record today than ever before. And more court actions, sovereign, real court, not fake court. That alone is worth all that we've done and all that we're seeing and all that we've been through. That alone, knowing that. And then that brings us to where we are and where we're going and what this is going to look like. It's going to look like all Moors being judges and justices on the land. That same supreme sovereign judge of the earth that was mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. That's all of us. They were talking to you and us and all of us, where the Declaration of Independence is concerned, and them appealing to the judge of the world. They were talking about us. So that's how we know they must do as commanded. And they have done pretty much that. Everything pretty much came to a halt, just like the prophet said. And now we're ready to move into getting things going again in the favor of the Moors. And what will that look like? That's going to be, now that we have terminated all corporate contracts and proclaimed our nationality on the public record, and then we've learned to do liens and we've learned to do court actions. And we know that everything that we do there must be a lien and a court action attached to that movement as we move through. We needed to know those principles because as we move into commerce, we will be governing our commerce through those methods. Liens and court actions will precede our commerce. So as we see things, properties and things like that we are looking to claim, that claim, in order for the claim to be valid, there needs to be a court action and a sovereign lien placed on the public record. So that's what it's going to look like, is we get to claim whatever we see that, and this is a suggestion with regard to abandoned property, it's best to know that the property is abandoned. Okay. It's best to look at properties that are abandoned, appearing to be abandoned, because we've claimed everything. All Moors have claimed everything. Everything belongs to the heirs. But we want to look at those properties that don't have anyone in them, and do liens and court actions on them. And then sovereign liens and sovereign court actions will always be followed by, they can either precede or be a part of or be followed by sovereign title, allodial title created. And the lien, the court action, and the title and all of that should be on the same type of government, Moorish government letterhead. Everything that we do is going to be of the same, coming from you and us and all who are the government. And then further, what that's going to look like is in a very short while, once we lay the process out, we're going to get into the all lowercase, and please hear me so that there's no confusion about this, because some will hear this and run out and go into corporate stuff, and that's not what this is intended for, and we're putting that on the public record. We're going to be moving into all lowercase letters in red, EIN, that talk about our ability to govern. And we're not appealing to any foreign corporation, because we're removing those corporations and have removed them off of our sovereign estate. We are the Internal Revenue Service. That's us, in all lowercase letters in red. We're that. Because remember, they were supposed to be paying taxes to us and not the other way around. That's why we have to step into that role as well. They were supposed to be paying taxes to us, and so are all nations to pay taxes to the heirs. Now, what that's going to look like is this. We are going to give to the other nations of the earth of our vast estate so that they can be on the same financial system that we're on. We're going to give to them whatever they need to get started. And we're doing that. That actually starts here on this land. So we need not look over there somewhere, overseas somewhere. The sovereign commerce starts here. So we are walking through the process of the movement of sovereign credit back and forth between one another, because that's not a corporate thing. Corporations can't even deal with our sovereign credit system. And our sovereign credit system looks a lot like the system that was previously. It looks a lot like it, but it's in red in all lowercase letters. And it is controlled and everything by us. And it's going to start, it's already started here. And then when we get trade and commerce going between one another, then it will go from here and reach out to, and spread to all the other lands. But it must start here first. We have to get our footing first. where sovereign universal commerce is concerned, and we already have it. It's been here the whole time. But we must know the principles and use those principles every chance we get. Some don't feel like they want to do court actions, but you actually must have a sovereign court action on the public record before you can proceed at commerce, sovereign commerce. Because you have to know that your sovereign commerce is based on what you say and not what someone else says. That is governing your own vast estate competently. So some say, well, we did all that. We put all this on, we did all that. Well, the same ones that say, and I'm not bashing anyone, because some are saying, well, we've already said this and we've already done that. Well, riddle me this. How many years did you work for the corporation and do the same thing over and over? And it's not, and this is different. This is not the same thing over and over. This is for our own growth and enrichment and wealth in our vast estate. But the Albions could tell you to do something back in those corporate days. And some did it for 40 years. And did not say, but I did that last week, or we already said that, or we already put that in the files. We tell them that every week. And that was when we were in the corporate, and none of us said, I'm not doing that. Well, a few of us did. I'm not doing that this week. I'm not doing that anymore. I did that already. I did it 30 times already. Yes, Islam. How dedicated were we to the corporation and their vision for our lives versus how dedicated are we to our own nation, our own government, and our own estate? How dedicated were we then? Some went into the corporate job, jobs, coughing, sneezing, hacking, half asleep, worn and tired. But you were up there on time every day for years. But then if someone says, well, you have to do liens and court actions, for everything that you're claiming, because you have to have a sovereign court ruling or judgment on the public record. But every now and then we'll hear more say, we already said all that. Same ones on those jobs, breaking necks. How dedicated are we? How dedicated are we to our own vast estate? What did you do for them that you are not currently doing for your government and your nation, which is you, for yourself? What did you do for them that's the start, yourself. What are you doing for you and your heirs? But if they say, do this and do that, and we're going to do this for the next year and a half, some did the same thing and followed the same syllabus or same program or process 30 and 40 years with very little changes, very few. Nation building is not about anything or anyone other than each of us. And we can feed ourselves and clothe ourselves based on nation building without fear of things like policy enforcers and fake internal revenue services and inquisition revenue services and things like that. And for those who are into finance, SECs and all of that, those pretending to be that, when we're the real ones, in all lowercase letters in red. So what were we doing for them that we're not doing for ourselves? And what did they do for you? What did they do? And I can hear it just floating in the ethers. Well, I got a paycheck every 2 weeks. What do you have to show for it? What do your heirs have? What can you pass down to them? Fortunately, we have our nationality so that we can build our own everything to pass to our heirs. And we cannot pass anything corporate to them because corporations only exist on paper. That's why the corporates are not the heirs. We are. What did they do for you? What did those corporates do besides throw many of us in jail and all of that and do crazy stuff? I will say this, I learned how to govern while I was in those corporate things, those corporate jobs. I did learn how to do things administratively, which then becomes ministerially when it's sovereign and nationalized. And that's the difference between them and what we did there versus what we're doing now. What we learned then was administrative. When we bring those same skills over here and nationalize our own skill set, then it becomes ministerially or ministry for our own nations and governments. So then where does that leave them? They go from being ones that we contracted with because we thought that they were our equals, and some of us thought that they superseded us, to them being subject, us never having to contract with them, never having to contract with them, because we contract with our equals only, which is one another. And that's where contracts come in at, is us doing contracts with one another where commerce is concerned. But never contracting with those who are of an inferior jurisdiction. So it's a big difference between me contracting with, let's just say, because I just recently did a video on changing tires and things like that, and having to call them because there are no more tire services in the area. And so when we're in the corporate status, we call them and they get to call all the shots in an exchange like that. And they'll hold your conveyance if you don't pay, and they'll hold your conveyance if you know, if you start giving out commands and get out of your quote unquote place, you know. And this is when we thought we were slaves, blacks, corporate. They got to call they got to say how that exchange went. They got to govern that exchange. All they needed was our consent by signature. Now it's different. If we're somewhere and we need that, and we've terminated all corporate contracts and we're in our proper status, then it's subject. There are no mores around here. So subject, you come and you do this, and we will do this exchange, but I'm governing the exchange, not you. And we don't necessarily have to say that. It just is. So the exchange looks the same as it did before, but it's not the same. Spiritually, it's not the same. Physically, it's not the same. It does not manifest in the same way. They are supposed to be here until we say, we got it, we got it. We can do that. We don't need that anymore. Just like parents are supposed to be here, and I'm not saying they're our parents, because we all know better than that. But in terms of the way this goes, they are here to assist until we completely stand and don't need them anymore. And we're fast approaching that. So we shouldn't feel bad about that as long as we continue to stand. As long as we continue to stand, they are subjects. But if it's things we can do ourselves, why aren't we doing them? Such as peace and safety officers, etc. I will say this, the empresses at West were the peace and safety officers with there was one of our nobles who stepped up to be peace and safety officer, which is Noble Mouinier. He wore his white turban, and he was right along with us in terms of doing Moorish police, wazir, mufti duty. But it was myself, Empress Simone, and Empress Freedom here at West who wore the white turbans and were doing the duty. The empresses were here. And I'm not saying that doesn't take away from our emperors. Our emperors were here and present. But the empresses stood up. Well, if we can do that, well, remember, we were the first protectors anyway, because those who were in our womb, we protected from there first. So we were the first protectors of the nation. And it is profound that we were there again this past weekend. But seeing that whole dynamic, just the energy, it just added to the energy from this past weekend, October 31st weekend. And anything that we can do ourselves, we don't need them. And sure enough, let's just think about this. Sure enough, even though they are in the midst of, they being the corporates, are in the midst of their COVID, whatever they're doing over there, we were still able to gather. We were still able to meet in whatever size group we chose, unencumbered. And to me, I'm over the moon with that piece right there. No one talking about masks and things like that. We were on Mima Mound, on the ground. No, we didn't have to worry about policy enforcers coming because the Moorish peace and safety officers were there. So I said that to say this, anything we can do ourselves, which is everything really, this is in preparation for the commerce. Commerce must be protected from encumbrance by foreigners. So that is the manifestation. That's where manifestation of the commerce starts, is our competence at peacefully protecting it. We don't need guns. We didn't need any guns this weekend. It was beautiful. The energy was just amazing. We learned a lot, all of us, myself included, about how this works. We had nothing to fear from the very beginning. And even in my previous corporate jobs and things, before I found out who I was, if they had said, go and watch this inventory, which has happened because I was in the Air Force previously, they would have you stand guard duty. Well, if I can do guard duty for them, I can do guard duty for Vanguard duty, sovereign Vanguard duty for the nation. So can all of us. So can all of us. Because that's going to protect the commerce. What were we willing to do then versus what we're willing to do now? Some of us worked not 40, but 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week or more whenever they said do it. And if you did something wrong, whether you were aware of doing something wrong or not, there were consequences. And that's not to say there aren't any now. It's just that we govern our own and judge and justice of our own selves as sovereign. What are we willing to do? When those jobs came calling, some of us didn't even have a way to get there, and we still made it there. Didn't even have a ride. We were walking and getting there any way we could get there. Begging rides of others that we didn't even care for at the time in our sleep. Because they said be there. Sometimes we didn't even have lunch money, but we went. Stomach growling and all for them, for that. Sometimes some of us left the heirs at home for that. Thankfully, when we wake up, the ancestors redeem that time. And that's the beauty of this, is everything that we thought we missed during the sleep, the ancestors will redeem it through us all on this side. So we won't feel like we missed anything where our heirs are concerned and where we're concerned. We're not going to be missing anything at all. How dedicated are we to our nation? What are we willing to do? What did we do for them? And how did they show their appreciation and dedication to us during that corporate time? And then we come over here and there's an oversight or something, and we're just up in arms. And we don't want to talk to one another anymore, so it seems. We have to grow past that. We have to go past that, and many of us have, which I'm so excited about that. Yes, in the chat, we made away from no way. We can do it again for our nation, Islam. And in fact, we must. Islam. We must. We must. We don't have a choice there. At least from what I can see, I'm not even looking for a choice. This is where I want to be. This is what we want to do. Because what did they have us doing for them while they lived in palaces, essentially, and all of that? Come on. We got this. It's a wrap. We stand. And I'm excited about that. Because now we don't have to look to someone, some hierarchical something, waiting for them to pat us on the back. Our hands can reach our backs. We can pat ourselves on the back and keep it moving. And the ancestors, let me just say, most of you know this already. I'm just affirming what you already know. The ancestors, no one can pat us on the back like they can. They do it all the time in our nation. No one can pat us on the back better than they can. And they are within us. We are the ancestors returned. And then if you'll take a moment and think back, just think back to some of those corporate jobs and how the boss, the one doing business as boss when really you were the boss. That's why they had you signing things repeatedly all over the place. Those doing business as boss, how they treated you on the best day or the worst day, neither one of those even add up. Neither one of those can compare. On their best day, they cannot compare to the ancestors patting us on the back and giving us their affirmation in the way that they do. No comparison whatsoever. And then, are we willing to be free no matter what? Are we willing to be the light for our kin and for the sleeping Moors? Because that's really what this is. We are a remnant. Remnant is a part. It's like Judah. Send Judah first. Send Judah first, and the rest will follow. And not follow as in following anyone's lead, but follow in being free and standing on their own and leading themselves. Because no one leads the heirs. But that's what we're doing now, is clearing the way for our heirs and for those who are still asleep, so that they can see clearly when they wake up. That's putting processes and strategies in place for them to be able to look at and refine, because that's what they're going to be doing. It's coming along and continuing to refine the things that have been put out there. And each one of us can do that. Refine it and make it fit what you need it to fit. That's why no one tells the heirs what to do, because we have our own refinement processes within us. So you can put the process out there and the Moors will go to work making it better and making it so that it's comfortable for them, for us, for each one of us. and then sharing that information. So the processes that are coming out, that are being put out there now, is for the uplifting of all of fallen humanity. All of fallen humanity. And congratulations, you've been chosen to implement them and to actually apply them in real time. Everyone in our nation has been chosen to apply that which we've learned to free ourselves. That is worth everything. It's worth it all. Just knowing that. So now that and this is, I started the call out this way. Now that we have gotten into Islam, welcome, nobility. Now that we have terminated the corporate contracts on the public record in red in all lowercase letters, and now that we have proclaimed our sovereign status on the public record, and now that we have done liens and court actions in red in all lowercase letters, with the exception of when we refer to the subjects and the corporations, that's in black in capital letters. Now that we have done that, and we've told them to stop what they're doing, we now are moving to start for us. So this is a brand new beginning for us. We've been here before in other dimensions, and we're here now in this dimension, so we're going to just hit that ball out of the park in this dimension too, just like we did previously. So knowing that everything that they did was a hypothecation of what we're doing, we now know how to convert everything back and to revert the estate back to us. We can look at what they did and just make it in gold and silver, lawful coinage, in red in all lowercase letters, and that brings us to things like EINs and all of that. Does anyone on this call know what EIN stands for? Yes.
Employee identification number?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's look up Let's look some of that up and see what it is we're really saying. And just so that, okay, so I'm looking up Okay, so what is the root word of employee?
Employee.
In the chat, Empress Princess gave the answer. The answer is ploy. Well, what is a ploy? What is a ploy? Because we want to get down to what we're really doing. In the dictionary that I have here, it's a Webster's Unabridged from 1828, unabridged. The first iteration was done in 1828. Yes. Okay, so in the chat, Empress Princess put a cunning plan to turn something to benefit the cunning party. Yes, but the words can be, we're here to uplift fallen humanity, and so the terms can be made sovereign and nationalized when we uplift that definition of ploy by saying an intelligent plan to turn something to a benefit for the intelligent one who is implementing said plan. That's what a ploy is. An intelligent plan to turn something to a benefit for the one implementing the intelligent one implementing said plan. That's what ploy is for us. Knowing that, let me look back through here even further. There is a prefix on ploy. The prefix on ploy is M, E-M. Now let me tell you how they play with that prefix and why they put it there. According to the dictionary, I love this, M is a noun, and the definition of M is the name of the letter M, as in more. That's now, as in more, I added that part. But M is the 13th letter in the alphabet. And in this dictionary, they put a capital M, and then they put the word or, and then they put a lowercase m. Yes. Just like Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz. That's always going to be us. It's always going to be us. Always. We are the ones who have an intelligent plan to turn something to a benefit that's going to benefit the M's, the Moors. That's not an accident that the word employ is what it is. A Moorish plan to turn something, something, anything, any resource, anywhere, to turn that resource, no matter what it is, to our benefit. And it's going to benefit the Moors. Yes. Something being anything. Something being anything we see, we can use it to our benefit, no matter what it is. I don't care what it is, we can use it to our benefit because it all belongs to us anyway. So when we said that we were an employee of something, of some corporation, we were still benefiting ourselves because all the Albions did was show us how to govern our own vast estates. And that's another reason why we're not mad at them. Because we're not mad at them, but we don't have to be under that. And in fact, we should never be under that because we're the sovereign employment. So when you employ your mental, that's a Moorish plan to think your way through something, anything, and turn it into a benefit for the nation, for the Moors, for the heirs. I find that when I'm thinking about my own situations and things that we're continuing to make it what it should be, that if I can fix it for me, I can convert it, and it's not even a conversion. It's just make it a something that everyone can use. And that's why the prophet said what he said. He said, "I gave you everything you need to save a nation. Take it and save yourself," because he knew if we can save ourselves, we can just put it out there and everyone else is going to benefit. They can turn our experiences into something that can benefit the nation. So everything that we have, everything that we see, even those that are still in the corporate setting, just start the conversion, the transformation, and the renewing of our mind so that everything that we see in there, we say, okay, how can our nation use that? Now, it's just a thought process. You don't have to actually do that yet. You don't have to take any action. Just look at it and say, how can our nation use that? Just start looking at it because it's ours already. It's ours already. Empress Chatali in the chat, Islam. Genesis 50:20. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring it about as it is this day. Yes. And God being all the heirs. God is the heirs in all lowercase letters in red. When you see lowercase God in red, that's us. That's the real one. Not the fake. Not the corporate one on paper. It's the real one. It's the real one. So when we start breaking down these words and looking at what we're really doing, we're talking about an employee identification number in red in all lowercase letters with no dashes in that number. We remove minus signs from all things because that is the sign of a debtor, including appellations. I've seen people hyphenate their appellation. That indicates that one is taking away from the other. It's math. Words are math. Everything we do is numbers and math. So we remove all minus signs. Now, is there a place for minus signs in our empire? Sure there is. Just not now, not there. Right now, we're cleaning everything up that was corrupted by corrupt blood and unclean hands of colonizers, etc. We're cleaning everything up now. So we have to clean it up, pull everything out first. Then we can start looking at how can we use this and how can we use that. But the cleaning has to happen first. That's why the steps are taken in the order that they're being taken. That's why you proclaim nationality before you do anything else. That needs to be done. It's done in your heart first. When it's done there, it's a wrap. But if you want it to manifest on paper, then manifest it on paper in red in all lowercase letters. Then, At the same time, terminating all corporate contracts, not just some, but all. Because if you have one corporate contract, that's still the corporation. It's still the corporation. Corporate contracts is any contract where they're using capital letters, either to describe that which we thought was us or themselves. Those two can't mix, and they know it. And now we know it. So right now is the cleanup process. That's what's happening now, the cleanup. And then we'll go back and begin to use all of our resources on our estate, but they needed to be clean first. Clean meaning wipe the gritty, slimy, crusty, crappy corporate stuff off of it, corrupt blood off of it, clean it up, and then say, okay, what can we do with this? That's where that's where the employee employment comes in. Employee identification number in red and all lowercase letters is not us, it's the resource and the plan. The number belongs to the thing. So when you say employee identification number in red and all lowercase letters, you're talking about a resource of some kind that you're going to use. But again, it cannot be corporate. It can't be in black. It can't be not even one capital letter. And no minus signs at all. It cannot be those things because those things are exactly what they say, capitalism, and they take away from. Anytime more are anywhere, we're adding to, because that is the hand of the creditor. The hand of the creditor, no matter what we touch, we're going to bliss it and grow it and expand it and make it better, make it faster, make it stronger, make it more useful. And I mean that's anything we touch gets better for us having touched it. Everyone knows that about us. Everyone knows that about us. The corporation could not have grown if we hadn't gone to sleep and thought we were a part of it and began working. It couldn't have grown without our touch. That same touch, when we say, okay, corporation, enough. Then what happens? What you see today. It's enough. It's you're done. We got this. And then we proceed. We continue. So everything that you saw them do, we're going to do all of that times a zillion. We're just going to do it where we know that all those pretend authority figures were always us from the beginning. It was always us, in red, in all lowercase letters, in capitis, diminutio, nolo. So now we're rewriting everything. We are rewriting and returning everything back to ourselves. We are employing all resources on our land to enrich our own nation. But for each one of us, the cleanup must happen. That's why each one of us must do what we've been doing, which is proclaim our nationality, which is terminate the corporate contracts, place the liens on those things that were attempting to pretend to govern us. Then do some sovereign court action on those things. We were talking to some of the Moors from this past weekend. This weekend was just so beautiful. We'll float on that for a while. And they were talking about how they closed down a prison from lenient in their territory. That is a sovereign move that's making it better for not just that Moor, because they weren't just thinking about themselves when they did that lien. They were thinking about everyone who was previously thinking that prison is some type of authority figure. Prisons can't be authority figures over anything. That's not even a thing. It's not a living, breathing being. Nor are those under those auspices of prison and prison guards and prison wardens. As long as they wear a corporate title, they are not breathing and living. They are not sovereign. But when that corporate title is removed, then they actually do become an authority. And while we're on that, let me say this about those who are in the corporate status, or not the corporate status, but the corporate environment. When you terminate all corporate contracts and you continue working, you automatically make yourself the authority that you've always been. Because again, they needed our participation in order for it to exist. There are no all corporate where there's no Moors at all. Those things don't exist on this land. There has to be one Moor somewhere signing papers or giving consent to be a part of that. There has to be. And if we all vote with our feet for our own nation, because we don't vote in fake corporate stuff, if we stop going somewhere, that thing has to close, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. If there's not a single Moor in it, it's got to close. It cannot exist. And that's what they're trying to do now slowly, is say, hey, y'all, we got, the Moors are not a part of this stuff anymore. We got to shut down. So it can't be an abrupt thing. They're doing it slowly but surely, and it's not really even slowly. It's happening quickly. We've decided that we don't want to be a part of, that Christian colonizer, commercial mercenary Christianity. And that's not saying anything negative about Christianity in all lowercase letters in red. It's not saying anything negative about that one, but the corporate one in black and all uppercase letters done by commercial mercenaries who can't open the doors without passing the plate, that one is out of here. It's out of here. Because we have decided, all of us, all Moors have decided, and are deciding and continuing to decide that that's not who we are. We gave that to them for them to use it, not us. And that's the same thing that's happening with the businesses, etc. When we say no, it's no on this land, period. And we're seeing that now. It's manifesting. So what are we willing to do to continue that manifestation so that we continue standing? Because believe it or not, we never sat down. We never sat down. We've always been the government. Always been the government. And I'll say that 1,000,000 times over the next 6 months or more. That's why our signatures, our autographs were always necessary. And that's why they always had just one of us in everything, because they knew that if the Moors don't consent, even in their sleep, we have to, it cannot exist. Nothing exists without God. It's a spell. Nothing exists without God in all lowercase letters in red, which is the Moors. Nothing exists without God. And that's actually that's literally. Literally. You want to know why a lot of cities and towns from the 17 and 1800s went to nothing? Because the Moors left that territory. So everything just went silent. That's why. If you see anything that is void of life, so to speak, that's because the Moors are not there. Which goes back to what I was saying. Anything we touch is going to be made alive. Even property is made alive in its spiritual nature. We possess it. Possession is twofold. It's actually threefold. But for the sake of this conversation, this sharing, it's twofold in terms of possession, meaning we hold it. Possession also means that it's kind of like when they used to talk about demon possession. It's like that, except the good way for the heirs. When we possess something, that means the spirit of that thing is changed to that which is natural. And no fake corruption can hold it. That's why gold and silver and land can never be held by corporations. Because we possess it. And we've never not possessed it. And because we possess it, they can't keep it. They can't hold it. It's like kryptonite. So, liens, court actions, nationality, all of that, and not in that order. The order is, nationality is the order of the day first. And then we terminate the corporate contracts, do the liens, learn the court actions, and do them. And then we begin the next step, which is the commerce, the sovereign, gold-backed lawful commerce. I would encourage all to, when you terminate corporate contracts, put a little extra focus and energy on the bank system, the corporate bank system, terminating that. And when I say terminate, that means put the document on the public record. That's what that means. You don't necessarily have to send anything to them directly, but just put it on the public record with intention. With intention. Intention means with feeling, emotion, and the knowing. And then you continue to use your cards and things like that. But watch it, because it's going to switch. There will be a switch. Watch, just look. And you'll know the switch when you see it. Just like we can see the changes that are taking place now. I'll say this, one of the changes that I saw in the bank, the sovereign resource account, because we're the bank in all lowercase letters in red. So we can call it a bank account if we want to call it a bank account. I prefer the term sovereign resource account in red in all lowercase letters. But one of the changes that I saw in that uncovering and revealing of our estate is that whenever I swipe my card now, especially if, like, say I'm going to the grocery store and I swipe the card, whenever I swipe it and they say, do you want cash back? I say no, because that's a switch. It's not really cash that they're giving. It's fiat until we put our own sovereign, more sovereign dollarium there. But when it says cash, I say no, because I know that's not real cash. That's their attempt to govern that exchange. So I go through the self-serve line and swipe the card. And when I swipe the card, I say I don't want any cash back because that's not real cash. We didn't put cash in there. So how is cash going to come out? And then when I look on the bank, the sovereign resource account statement, that transaction is reflected in red now. It used to be reflected in black, where the number is concerned. It'll have a number in parentheses. It used to be reflected in black, and now that number is reflected in red. So it's those kinds of changes, but don't let those changes be your focus. Your focus must be seeking first the kingdom, and those things will happen. Do the documents, put them on the public record, but your focus should be, and this is just a suggestion because you can't tell sovereigns what to do, but the focus should always be our grand rising in terms of our spiritual cleansing of energy while we're doing the demonstration. Because if we clean our energy before we do the demonstration, it's going to work. Period. It's going to work. And energy clearing is an all-day, everyday process for us, constantly throughout the day. Clearing energy and replacing that energy with gratitude energy. Or you can replace any energies that you clear with a question to the universe that you're seeking an answer to. Clean the space first, and that's what I was saying about the commerce. Everything has to be cleaned by the heirs before we can use it, including the heir. That's why they're wearing masks. They're wearing masks because our air needs to be clean. Because it's going to be for our use. Sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine use. And when it's for our use, it must be clean. The nobility, everything. That's why everything that we do, clean hands means that. Clearing all negative energy before we do the demonstrations that we do. And then if you're looking for an answer, ask. I just clear the energy and I say, okay, ancestors, you see that we need some remedy in this area. I'm looking to you to provide the answer. So and then I just go about my way, continue studying, continuing to look around and do what we do in terms of service to our vast empire. And it never fails. The Moors will say something on a call or send something via text, or I'll see something posted on social media or YouTube or somewhere with the answer that I needed. And then I employ the answer. I do a Moorish ploy. That's what employ is. It's a Moorish plan. A Moorish plan. So an EIN in red in all lowercase letters is a Moorish plan number. And again, we don't have to pick up the phone and call fakes because they're not controlling it and governing it anyway. We are. So we just notify them that this is what we're doing. This is the law. Islam members. I see you in the chat. Islam. And so we're actually going to, those are all some of the things that we wanted to put forth today so that we know that everything that we have told them in the past has come to pass and is coming to pass and is manifesting. Manifesting is a better way to put that. It's manifesting. He that hath an ear, let him hear. And then we don't have to worry about convincing anyone about the things that we have told, the laws that we've made on our land. Because they're going to see it eventually anyway. Just like the bibliotelio text says that all will see his face. That's a little bit of a mistranslation. All will see our faces. Everyone will know. Everyone will know. And then every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that we are the law. Are we looking for people to bow to us? Nope, that's not the point. Because bowing doesn't even, it doesn't look like what they said it looked like. We can do the etymology and define the word bow. Bow and bow mean it's spelled the same way. It's a spell. So we're not looking for anyone to be doing things that are not natural, and certainly not the Moors. So let's look that up and see what they were really saying about every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. That is every knee shall bow it would be anthropomorphic to expect to see everyone on their knees in that way. It's anthropomorphic. That's the 2-year-old version of every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. And bow depends on how you want to look at whatever process you're looking at. You can look at the economy. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. All that means economically is that everyone's going to have to come under the gold and silver system that we put in place since time immemorial. Everyone must come under that. No man can buy or sell unless they do. No one can buy or sell unless they do. So when you look in the dictionary at the word bow, the noun, there are several versions of the word, but I'll just read a few. An inclination of the head. An inclination of the head to bow. Well, when we think about the heads of corporations and the heads of this and the heads of nations and the heads of that, all of that, when they incline, that means they're coming under the sovereign heirs. That means that thought it was the head is not the head. We are. That's why we use the term decapitate so freely in our court action. Because there will be an inclination of the head. And if that head is not what it should be, then the head is removed. So we're not talking about the anthropomorphic version of that. We're talking about the real version of that. The unseen, which then manifests in the flesh. That's why we use that term in our court action. Because corporations were using the fiat system, a fake fiat system. And either you get in subject status or you can't be here. So that's what bow means. And then every tongue confessing means state your name and nationality for the record. That's what every tongue confessing means. State your name and nationality for the record. And that's why we put our nationality on the public record. Because we first have returned to our ancestors and the ways of our foremothers and forefathers. So we were the first to bow and confess to our own. And then they follow in the bowing and the confessing. In other words, we're the example for the whole earth in all of that, in everything. We do it first and they mimic. And for corporates it's mimic. And for the others, it comes from a natural, real, true place of law, a place at law. But we have to do it first. That's why the termination of corporate contracts, all of them. Because we're telling other people, you have to follow the law. Well, we're the law. We're not looking for followers at all, period. That's anthropomorphic. That's the 2-year-old version of all of this. It's everyone stand on their own sovereign status and govern their own vast estate. Period. And then we all do that together. I'm governing my estate and I want to do commerce with my brothers and sisters, and so we sit down at the contract table because we are equal. That's what contracts are for. They're for equal. That's why we had to terminate the corporate ones, because they're not our equal. That's why we don't have to talk to them, because talking is contracting. They're not our equal. They're subjects. Do what we tell you to do until we start doing that. And when we start doing that, you shut down, because we got it. Just like the children, our heirs. When they first start learning to walk, we help them and assist them. But then they don't need our help after a while. And after a while, if you keep trying to help them up, they're going to start objecting to that in the way that the heirs do. Because they're like, I got this. Why do you keep? And then, if they're 10 or 12 years old and you still trying to help them up and help them learn how to walk, they'll tell you, Mom, I got it. Dad, I got it. I know how to walk already. Why do you keep doing that? I'm 12. So all we have to do is keep moving in the direction that we're moving in, and clearing the energy. Some tend to try and overlook that step, and they still want to do the checkbox thing where they say, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, but nothing happened. Well, did you clear the energies and renew and continue to renew your connection to the all, which is our ancestors? And for some, they say the higher self, whatever you choose to call it, is all good. You're sovereign. You can call that whatever you want to call it. Some call it divine intellect. Some call it the divine urge. I call it all of that at any given time. And I know that it's within us and within our nation. There are no answers that are outside of our nation, period. So that is what we wanted to share at this time, is kind of where we're going in terms of the next step in the restoration and of the estate. Is in red in all lowercase letters, EINs and things like that. And we'll be putting out some documents and some suggestions where that is concerned, so that the sovereigns can take that and use it. We've received some very, very, all I can say is, when you ask the ancestor for the answer, they're going to give you way more information than you anticipated for you to use. Way more keys. And none of us should be waiting for anyone to hand us a key. Keep looking, and then as you hear the things that are being suggested all across the board from one another as well as from us, look at them, clean them up, clear them up, filter them, put them through your sovereign filter. Remove all of that corporate feudal slime from them. Wash them and make them clean. Touch them, turn it into gold, and then use it. Because none of that stuff, none of our resources are worthy of us until they're clean. None of them. That's why the energy has to be clean. None of our resources are worthy of us until they are clean. They do us no good until they're clean. And who has to clean them? We do. Because we're the only ones who know how to clean them in the way that is sovereign, in capitis, diminutio, nolo, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes, knowing that no United States corporation, company, citizen, nor their agents, principals, heirs, nor assigns has personam jurisdiction over the Moors. And with that, we will prepare then again for our Thursday call, where we get most of the questions that come from the heirs. So if you have any questions about any demonstrations that you're doing, and we'll continue to introduce and put some things on the public record where commerce is concerned. We've already made the proclamation on the public record about sovereign commerce, where we will be doing our own everything. There was a 2-minute proclamation put out on the public record, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that video was placed on YouTube. And we're going to continue moving in that manner. So having said that, peace and grand rising to the heirs.
Grand rising.
Islam. Islam. Islam.
Peace and love.